Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Elizabeth Holmes. Several days ago, the town of Hilsborough noticed something wrong with their water. A creek that flows through the town cemetery was neon green. A picture of it went viral, and now officials are investigating what caused the water to turn this wild color. Our Kirsten Clark has been following this story. She joins us now by phone. Hi, Kirsten.
Hey, Elizabeth. How are you?
I am good. I think we should first start with where you were reporting today. What was it like?
Yeah, so I was in Hilsborough, and specifically the Hilsborough Cemetery, that area. And we'll get into why I was there in a second.
Yeah, so there's this picture. I remember seeing this on Facebook. The town of Hilsborough posts this picture, and the water in a creek near the cemetery looks neon green. It looks like something out of a movie. Did you actually get to see that water in person today? Is that what it still looks like?
So the water, it's still green, but not as green as that picture. And I actually also, a few days ago, remember seeing that same picture on Facebook. And immediately before looking at the caption, I thought it was a joke. Either a joke or maybe just like a play on, Chicago every, St. Patrick's Day, they dye the Chicago River green, like an emerald green color. I thought that maybe the town of Hillsborough was doing their own thing. It's not even St. Patrick's Day, but I was like, there's no way this can be real.
Right. Exactly. I think, as reporters, we see something like that and we go, okay, first of all, is this real? What is this? What is causing this to happen? What questions did you have when you first saw that picture?
First, after seeing the picture and getting over the initial shock, I actually read the caption, and that's when I realized, okay, this isn't a joke. But I immediately asked myself, number one, how did this happen? How does water in a creek turn that green? And then, what was it in the creek that made the water turn green? And I think for me, most importantly, my, immediate afterthought was, does this affect the people living in Hilsborough?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, too, I was thinking the same exact thing. And then, like, health and safety, right? This is water that's going into the ground. Is this water that people are drinking, bathing in? Is there wildlife that maybe relies on this creek water, and it looks toxic. So in your reporting, what did you find out today? What caused all of this?
Yeah, so right beside the cemetery and the creek is a car wash. And so it's the Southern Pride Car Wash. And so I learned through talking with someone through the town, then eventually I talked to the owner of that car wash, that the chemical in the creek was actually tire and wheel cleaner. So in, many car washes, they use different chemicals to clean your car. And so that specific chemical that ran off into the creek was tire and wheel cleaner. So basically what happened is that there's a room inside of this car wash. And this is just to kind of paint a picture here, this is not your new modern car wash. This car wash was built in the 1970s. So it's much older, and you can tell just by looking at it, but there is a room that basically sources out all of those chemicals. And so from speaking with the owner of the car wash, his name is Larry Warren, he told me that because of the really cold temperatures over the last few days, that room got very cold. There's no central heating system in there. And one of the dispenser for that tire and wheel cleaner, it broke. And so basically, the chemical just kept flowing and pumping. And what he didn't know was that the drain for these chemicals drains directly into the creek. And so 50 whole gallons of that chemical was pumping directly into that creek, which is why it was that bright green color.
Oh my gosh. That is wild. That I can just picture soap or these chemicals, like something that looks like just a chemical mess, just continuing to slide in and just causing quite a problem. That is really fascinating.
Yeah. And because he's only been the owner of that specific car wash for about 2.5 years. So he had no idea, what the drainage system was like. And the gentleman who I spoke with the town of Hilsborough, he's over the stormwater and environmental management for the town. His name is Terry Hackett, and he was telling me that because Hillsborough is so old, they do their due diligence in making sure to check the pipes and drainage systems, but some of those systems are so old that they don't know exactly how they work. And so it looked like this car wash was fine and that everything was working as it should be. But, once upon a time, there weren't as many regulations as there are now. So it was okay for chemicals to drain directly into bodies of water. But again, we learn more about our environment. We know that that's not safe. And so that specific drain, for whatever reason, was not taken care of sooner. And now we have this mess.
You've talked to, town officials about this. What are they saying? How are they responding to this situation?
Yeah, so this initially was brought to their attention. Again, this creek runs through a pretty large cemetery. It's the town of Hillsborough Cemetery. So even when we were out there today, we saw people, just walking through, walking their dogs, people out there visiting their loved ones. And so people were walking by that creek and noticing, again, this bright green color. So he told us that a couple people had notified the town. And so, of course, they immediately went out there, took that photo. And the first initial reaction was to call the local fire department to figure out what this chemical was and to figure out how hazardous it was. I think anytime, there's a chemical in a body of water, there is an environmental concern, and it's not good. But just figuring out exactly how hazardous this chemical was. And so they were able to figure out what it was, the cleaner, and tie that back to the car wash. And then they got in touch with the car wash owner. And so when it comes to the car wash, right now that car wash is temporarily closed because they don't want it to operate until they fix the problem. And in speaking to the owner, of course, this car wash is his livelihood. So he has struggled since then, but also struggled with the fact that his car wash has been responsible for something that, has really been a concern in the community and has brought up concerns about safety and health hazards. So he was responsible for hiring a cleaning crew that went out and made sure that they cleaned up as much of the chemical out of the creek as they could. So right now, like I was saying, it's not as brightly colored green, but there's still a little bit of green left. And so the town tells us that's just dye. They check the pH and the pH is back to normal. So they're saying everything is fine thanks to the cleaning crew. But again, that car wash is still temporarily closed until the owner gets that drainage system fixed so that nothing is draining directly into the creek.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned that the pH levels are fine. Was there any kind of anything concerning that, any kind of environmental officials or anyone who's kind of monitoring this and going out and surveying the damage that this may have caused? Anything notable that they found? Any kind of, dead leaves or grass or anything in the creek that might have died from this at all?
So nothing that particularly stands out that was affected by this, but I think, as I mentioned before, anytime you have a chemical contaminating a body of water, whether it's a creek, a pond, whatever it may be, it's never a good thing, right? I don't think there was any wildlife living in this creek, but you never know. And again, there's people walking by this creek every day. You have people with pets. So nothing specifically that has been directly impacted by this, but I think the main thing is the concern. And then something I also asked the town that I saw people on Facebook asking about, well, does this affect our drinking water or our tap water? So the short answer to that is no, it does not. And that's because the water for the town of Hilsborough is sourced through the Eno River, which is well upstream from where that creek is located. But also the town says, again, this cleanup and the fact that, I know it sounds like a lot, 50 gallons of cleaner, but because it wasn't more than that, they feel that the impact is likely none to minimal. But they will continue to monitor this to ensure that everything is okay. But we were told that specifically for the drinking and tap water, that there's no impact. And then, again, environmentally, it's not good, but no direct effects.
Gotcha. What, What are the key takeaways from this story? What are officials kind of wanting people to know about this situation?
Yeah, so takeaways on two ends. One, I think it's important to know after speaking with the owner of the car wash, this was an accident. Again, he said that he bought this car wash not knowing that there was direct drainage to the creek, that he would have taken care of that before he bought it. But, if there is ever a time where you purchase something like that, if you can, double, triple check to make sure that there is not an opportunity for contamination. And I think on the other side of things, when it comes to, people in town who saw this, kind of what we were talking about earlier, putting things on social media. A lot of times when, if you just take a picture of that and post it on social media, a lot of people aren't going to believe it. There's going to be a lot of rumors swirling around. So the town really just wants people to know, okay, if you're out and about and you do see a situation like this, please come to the town first and let us know, just so we can get a handle on it, so we can get eyes on it, and so we can clear things up as soon as possible. So don't run straight to social media with pictures of things like that, because again, that can be hard to believe when you see it at first glance. But just making sure people know protocol when you see things like that when you're out and about. And accidents do happen, but if you can, be sure to find ways to avoid situations like this in the future, because thankfully this wasn't that bad, but it could be much worse in other situations.
Right, exactly. And the comments on the social media was crazy. Someone said, "Happy St. Patrick's." Oh, wait, kind of like what you mentioned with the city of Chicago. Someone said, "This was how Return of the Night of the Living Dead started out." So there's just hundreds of comments. It definitely went wild on social media. But yeah, always best to maybe check and say, what could this possibly be? So yeah, really, really interesting story. And I appreciate you sharing your reporting with us. Thanks so much for it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. And if you listen to this podcast on WRAL.com, remember you can listen anywhere you get your podcasts. That includes Spotify and Apple. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss an episode.